Welcome to Birdlens, presented by the Birdlens app. I'm Sheila. Today's title is Part 1, Rethinking the Bird Brain.
I'm Victor. This is Season 1, Episode 1 of the Genius of Birds series. We are opening Part 1 before Chapter 1.
Today is the Part 1 introduction, not a numbered section. Next comes Chapter 1, the end of bird brain.
Before listening, you need curiosity about animals and a basic idea that brains guide behavior. You need no neuroscience background, Sheila.
First, we will unpack the insult bird-brained. Then we will define key terms. Finally, we will test how small brains can support complex abilities.
That is our roadmap, Sheila. We begin with history, move through brain organization, and finish with evidence from several species.
Here is today's quiz. Can one clever performance establish broad intelligence, or must scientists demand a wider pattern of evidence?
My opinion is that this requires disciplined standards. We should examine how a claim is framed and what standards it meets. I will defer my verdict until the end.
Let's define cognition first. Cognition means processes for learning, remembering, deciding, solving problems, or representing information. Is that clear, Victor?
Yes, Sheila. A neuron is a nerve cell that receives and sends signals. The pallium is a major bird forebrain region involved in complex processing.
Brain architecture means how cells are arranged and connected. Brain size measures volume. Neuron density measures how many nerve cells fit inside that volume.
Exactly. Computation here means transforming information into useful responses. It does not mean arithmetic alone. Sheila, what distinction should listeners remember first?
Remember that volume and density are different measurements. A compact brain can still contain many nerve cells and connections.
Good. A mammalian neocortex is a layered outer brain region linked with complex processing. Birds lack that same layout, but they have a differently organized pallium.
Now the history. Bird-brained linked small brains with simple minds. Was that assumption cultural, scientific, or both?
It was both, Sheila. Older science often described birds as instinct-driven and primitive. That language influenced experiments and interpretation.
The motivation for change was practical. Scientists needed explanations that matched memory, tools, social behavior, and problem solving.
The language evolved too. In 2005, the Avian Brain Nomenclature Consortium called older terminology outdated. It emphasized neocortex-like cognitive functions in the avian pallium.
My understanding is that bird intelligence is not one trait. It combines abilities shaped by dense neurons and specialized organization. Please correct me, Victor.
That is strong, Sheila. I want to refine it. We must connect abilities to evidence rather than assume one brain feature explains everything.
A compact bird brain is like a small city with efficient roads. A larger brain may be spread out, but size alone reveals little.
The mapping works. City area represents volume, while roads and useful infrastructure represent connections and neuron density. Brains remain living systems, not identical machines.
I question the assumption that mammalian architecture is the universal blueprint. If birds lack a layered mammalian neocortex, why assume they lack complex thought?
We should not assume that. The scientific question is whether different neural routes can produce related functions. The avian pallium offers one such route.
Here is an edge case. If a pigeon succeeds after heavy training, perhaps it memorized a routine. How can researchers challenge that explanation?
They can test unfamiliar examples, new contexts, and competing explanations. Generalization matters because it tests performance beyond one memorized stimulus.
A real-world research action is to present new problem layouts instead of repeating one puzzle. That tests flexibility rather than rehearsal.
Right, Sheila. Good experiments change surface details while preserving the underlying challenge. They also measure errors, timing, and consistency.
Here is an explicit comparison. Brain volume resembles a building's floor area. Neuron count and connections resemble offices, staff, and communication routes.
That comparison shows why volume alone is incomplete. A 2016 study found parrots and songbirds had, on average, about twice as many neurons as primate brains of equal mass.
A common pitfall is saying small brain equals small mind. We should avoid it by comparing density, behavior, task demands, and alternative explanations.
That is the best practice. Never infer intelligence from skull size alone. Ask what information the animal handles and how flexibly it responds.
A distinct fact is that researchers documented 5,550 new Caledonian crow tools across 21 sites. They identified wide, narrow, and stepped designs.
Those designs suggest diversified and cumulative change in manufacture. The crows were not merely holding random objects. Their tools showed functional variation.
A distinct anecdote is surprising. Pigeons trained on Monet and Picasso later distinguished unfamiliar paintings and generalized toward related artists.
That suggests category-like visual discrimination. It also broadens the story beyond famous crows and parrots. Familiar city birds can reveal sophisticated learning.
My mnemonic is dense. Different architecture, evidence, neurons, species, and environment. It reminds me not to reduce intelligence to size.
Useful mnemonic, Sheila. Remember the earlier point. Brain volume and computational capacity are related, but they are not identical.
A gray parrot exceeded 80% accuracy in numerical tests and used none for absence. Researchers carefully called that a zero-like concept.
That wording matters. An impressive result does not prove human-like thought. It shows why researchers should describe precisely what a task demonstrates.
A final research example involves carrion crows. Single neuron activity in the pallial end brain correlated with what the birds reported seeing.
The authors argued that this finding was an empirical marker of avian consciousness. It suggests perception does not require a mammalian-style layered cortex.
So my reinforced summary is this. Birds may solve problems through compact, neuron-rich, differently organized brains. Their abilities require measured evidence.
Exactly, Sheila. Different architecture can support related powers, but each claim still needs careful testing across tasks and species.
Now I can answer the quiz. One clever performance alone cannot establish broad intelligence. Strong conclusions require converging results, unfamiliar examples, and careful controls.
Well answered. Today's central lesson is that bird-brained reflects outdated assumptions about size, structure, and cognition.
My final recap is simple. Birds can show tool traditions, visual categorization, numerical competence, and complex neural activity. Their minds deserve species-sensitive testing.
Part 1 will widen that reversal. We will examine brain organization, then learn how scientists measure intelligence without forcing birds to act human.
Next is Season 1, Episode 2, the Chapter 1 Introduction, the end of Bird-Brained. It begins the first numbered chapter.
Sheila, thanks for guiding the questions. Subscribe to and rate Birdlens, then download the Birdlens app for the next episode.